Welcome, good day. Good day, everyone. I know you've had a long weekend in terms of it being long, stretched down long into the night for some of you. Don't look at me after me. Anyway, this is the final moment now where you get to present what you've learned in these last 6 days, actually, all together as a group. I'm quite sure, you know, that all our students also learn quite a bit from having people here, guests from Seattle. Don't you look at your world a little bit differently now, Arthur?
Yes.
Yeah. Arthur's world is a little bit different anyway. Yes, I'd like to thank you for all the effort you put in before you start. Loy is going to be recording it for us, so we have something to work with later on and look at it. Has anyone got any objections to that? Speak now, if ever hold your peace. Yes. If you say, please cut me out of anything, then that's what we'll do. You know, if you never want to be seen. And you definitely don't. If there's anyone who doesn't want to be seen on Facebook, it's too late now because you're all posting photos of each other anyway. I know that. All right. Okay, group number 1, you're ready to start. Please get yourselves sorted. Ready?
Yeah.
Begin. Hello, welcome all. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jackie.
I'm Tyler.
I'm Gummi.
I'm Linda.
I'm Inkibjörg. And we are the Folklore and Sagas group in correlation to the Snæfellsnes Regional Park. We had the challenge of relating the youth to the community with the folklores and the sagas within the national park. Well, regional park. There we go. Sorry. We should edit that. But within this challenge, we came together as a group. But within that group, we became friends too. Gumi and Ingeborg and I, and the 2 others, part of our group, made the discovery of going through the regional park, and we learned not only the sagas that they grew up with, but we also learned about what was in the regional park and why this land is so beautiful and so treasured by the people of this land.
So my experience when we did our drive about was really special because while we could have just sat down together and Gumi or Ingi could have told us stories or we could have read stories, we were able to go out and see these places, and that made a much deeper connection with us as outsiders to these stories and the place that they happened in. And so in that, you know, the experience was special and more than any other experience we could have had.
So for me it was like, because I'm from Westfjords and I haven't seen all of these places, but I've heard the stories. So when we did the tour, I was like, whoa, that's the place where that happened, and whoa, that's the place where he hid his dead bodies, that's the place where it's supposed to be haunted and all that, and it was so much fun, and also to get to know this group a lot better than if we just sat here like, yeah, we could do that or we could do that. We just did it and had some fun out of it. So I realized from that how important the stories are for us. So we can also relate to the places it happened. So we won't be like going through a country and just see some places, but we also know stories that are related to the places.
Yeah, for me, like I've driven past those sites many thousands of times, and I was like, yeah, whatever. But when I took them to see them, I looked at them in a whole new way. Like, oh wow, I really do know that. I'm gonna tell them that. And they were like, oh yeah, awesome. I was like, really? Yes, it is. And then we just drove around and I showed them everything I found interesting. And everything I found interesting was awesome. and they liked most of it, I think. And as I said, I take everything for granted around me. I drive by mountains, I'm like, yeah, fucking mountains. And now it's like, oh yeah, that's an awesome mountain. So this was a very fun experience for me, and yeah, I like these guys.
Okay, so I had a really a good time going to see these places. It was a very personal experience since these were stories that were told to Gumi and Ingeborg by their parents and grandparents. And it just showed me how in touch they were with their own culture and how they are still connected to these stories now as adults, even though they were children. And the plan was to have like the youth lead town walks so that they would act out these stories as they would show the community these areas. And so I think this is a great way for the community and especially for the youth to be part of this, to not only keep the traditions of these stories alive, but to also stay connected and to their roots and to their culture. So it was really fun for me.
So our plan, short, simple, to the point. And we have a link for that called The Plan. So here is the area in which that we are focusing on. I just thought it was cool to put that there. But as we all have said, we had the opportunity to go through the regional park and listen to the stories. So our plan is to have during the summertime to get the youth involved by setting up certain spots within the regional park to tell sagas, either if it actually belonged in that area or just something that interests them, that they grew up with. And during the winter time, we can have little signs that also state those too. So it involves the people, the land, and the sagas. And the question has arisen, what will bring the youth back? Youth are really rebellious. I think we all can agree upon that. However, with this project in particular, you're making these roots deeper for the youth. Their land right here is something that they can take for granted. It's something that they may just go by and may not really cherish, or they just may have not traveled there. But the idea of teaching something that they really are insightful about, that they take value into their childhood or whatnot, really makes them connected to the community again. So yes, the youth may travel away, but those roots are deeper to which they can come back, and they are able to come back and be proud of that. Even if more proud, I should say. And our last little link about us. Dun, da, da, da. So we've only known each other for about a week, less than that, maybe? I don't know. My days are all over the place. But I think the thing that we really took out of this project was, yeah, it was cool to go around the regional park. But what made it best is being together and bringing our backgrounds together and becoming friends. Because now this is an experience we will not forget. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Okay.
Stace.
So I'm Stacy.
I'm Shay.
I'm Kristrid.
I'm Renee.
And I'm Anita.
So we had the landscape. So we got to also go around and look at everything around the peninsula, and it was beautiful. And we decided that the purpose of landscape was not that. I don't know what that says.
It's technical difficulty.
We have a purpose, I promise. I don't know.
I know.
Usually.
Oh.
Wait.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay. So it's like the natural and the man-made features in the landscape that will entice the young people to come back to this region and not just leave.
So, upon the saga group going before us, there's a very rich history within this landscape, and that landscape deeply ties the people to the area.
So that's our perspective of what we see when we go out there, and then also just like the beauty that's there with the caves, the waterfalls, the ogre brains on the rocks. The Icelanders will know what that is. It just like is amazing to us because it's not stuff that we usually see.
Yeah, everything just really like stands out. Like we're like looking at everything, like something that's not even a scene. Like we're like, oh, like, that's so beautiful, and it's like it's nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
this
why
is just what we get out of it.
Our perspective.
Yeah, so like when people come here like tourists, they see all this beautiful landscape, but there's so much like behind it. Like they were talking about like all the history behind like all these beautiful places. Like we don't even know all the history behind it, so I think it's important that people get to know what they're seeing. You know, it's not just like a beautiful mountain. It's not just like a beautiful place. It's like so much behind it.
Yeah, the history behind it, it's, you know, a big part of it. But it's also just when you see the picture, it's not just the picture, it's the experience, man, to go to the landscape and see it for yourself. And then you will make a memory for you. So it's really, you know, not just seeing it, it's experience.
So to come back, this is what we thought would help benefit people, especially the people who live here, to come back to the region, such as landscape jobs. With the regional park, there will be a need for a park ranger, which would help manage and regulate certain things in the park, as well as enforce certain rules, such as like no littering, making people don't take stuff, to stay on the trails, as to not damage the natural landscape.
Yeah, for like the guided hikes, it also ties into the saga group where like people would like go on these hikes through like all these like the mountains and like just the trails and just have like someone there like telling a story of what used to be there and like what is behind that.
And that could provide
landscape,
jobs for you guys. And then also, after talking to Tista and Anita, like, they like want more stuff here. They want malls and like more activities to do. It gets kind of monotonous, it sounds like. So within the landscape, there's so much that you could add to it, and it just would be more exciting. And also maybe natural disaster prevention, because you don't
It
want to
also
get
keeps the people who has a home here longer than going away, and the history will disappear.
Because there's like so much tourism here, so we have to like keep the nature like still beautiful, so they keep coming. Not like we can't let them like ruin what we have here.
but at the same time, we want tourism because like it brings money, and so there are lots of ways to bring the tourists here, but it just needs to be managed.
And then continuing forward, in the local area, there have been a couple areas where they have started to plant small forests. Then as those trees grow and more trees are planted, that will help a lot of things, such as wind breakage for the town, because already one of our group members have been knocked down by the wind while being here. And also, as they grow older, they shed their leaves, and that adds to the richness of the soil and the healthy landscape for things to grow.
An idea off of the tree thing would be like, I don't know if it was just an idea like having like an annual like community like tree planting thing where everyone would like go and like plant a tree, so as they grow, their tree grows and they can just watch their tree grow and they just keep like, you know, going and planting trees every year, so it helps build the forest, I guess.
And something else we'd want to add is there are like more signs being added to like the different features, but like just making like the sites known so that not only like tourists get excited, but also that the people who live here are reminded like, oh yeah, that's a cool thing that I could like go visit or something. And then at the same time putting up warnings so that the tourists don't like kill everything that you have going.
Yeah, and then following up with that is just like fixing up some of the local trails and somewhat like posting sticks with coloring I've seen around in areas, which help prevent people showing where the path is and direct them so they're not trampling over the moss and other plants in the area.
We did come up with the idea of like, 'cause, you know, there's so much wind, like there should be like what are they? the wind.
Wind turbine.
Yeah, wind turbines. But just I don't know. They told us like there was a reason. They don't know why. Like they can't have them.
Yeah, since there's no geothermal here, it'd be cool
Yeah,
to like
so it's a
harness-
good way to harness electricity.
Yeah.
And that would come back to having activities because the pool is currently shut down because the need for energy to heat that pool is so high that it just can't really be done at this time. And when we went to the caves for a tour, the small building they had there was powered by a small turbine on top, combined with other forms of electricity.
So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so our project was food within the regional park, and we started thinking about food and kind of exploring a little bit, and we really started to notice that like food isn't something that just sustains you. It's something that really can like bring the community together. One picture we have here in America is Thanksgiving feast, and that's something like where your whole family just comes together for a meal, and you think about like what you're thankful for that year, like or what you're just thankful for in your life, and that's something like that is, you know, food is behind that. That's something that we all just come together, just like meals, places that you eat, restaurants, you go out for special occasions, and it's something that just like really can just bring a community together.
I was gonna say, we kind of stressed over how to define food, or how to describe it, and to me it's almost easier to talk about it. It's a very active thing. It's something where it doesn't matter what culture you're from, where you're from the world, it's just food is something that brings togetherness, and we wanted to bring that to the Regional Park project.
This was something that we were given to show us just like where food is found within the region, and I just had to put it up with our project because it's just amazing the resources you guys have in this land, and to utilize it and bring it into like restaurants or just selling it locally would be really beneficial, I think. So, do you want to go over the resources?
Yeah, these are the available local resources. We have horses, lambs, cows, chicken, fish, whale, potatoes. How do you pronounce it?
Rhubarb.
Rhubarb,
Yeah.
berries, and shark.
The cow thing actually surprised me. I didn't know we had cows here.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting because when we asked them, like, hey, like, what do you have around here? They were like, sheep.
Yeah, they just didn't have, like, we have yeah, and there's so much. So
There's so
it's kinda
much
cool. All right. So next, we went on a little field trip to 3 local farms.
This is the Fabio horse we saw here.
Yeah, we really enjoyed the horses.
You took that picture. Good job.
He took some great photos too. All right, I'm gonna let you pronounce the name.
We went to Bjarnarhöfn, where
Yeah.
you could see the history of the Greenland shark and of the man who lives there, his family history, and also where we tasted the shark.
It was really cool. He took us all around his farm, and he showed us where they actually like hang the sharks for I think it's 6 weeks or something like that, and we got to go out and see his chickens and his horses.
His ducks.
His ducks. Yeah.
This guy was pretty badass. He had like a museum filled with stuff, but it really wasn't a museum. Like I don't even know how to describe it. It was a room full of stuff, but all of this stuff was from his family, so artifacts from like forever long ago. And it was just really cool to see that people care about antiques.
Yeah, and he was just like really passionate about it when he was speaking, and so it was just kind of, I don't know, it was really fun to like listen to him. The second farm we went to,
Hamra.
and they had chicken and egg production, and she actually sells all of her eggs locally. All of it just is local, and he actually uses it in his bakery, which is kind of cool. Yeah, and they had some of their own sheep just roaming around and stuff like that, and we got to see kind of the process of slaughtering them and stuff like that, so it was kind of interesting and
I thought
sad,
that was
but
very
yeah,
interesting.
it was a good experience. Third farm we went to,
Eyði.
and that was cows and milk production. And she also had a lot of sheep.
Everyone has
And
sheep.
2
apparently.
rams.
Yeah.
These are some pictures that we took.
Oh yeah, kind of cool. This is from the second farm.
Yes.
The sheep.
Who has sheep? And that
And
sheep. Before and after.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
This is the Icelandic chicken.
Yeah, the Icelandic chickens.
We actually got to keep some eggs from them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
She gave us some eggs.
she was. They were all very generous, and
This is the cows before?
the cows.
Yeah.
These are the cows that they milk. We actually got to drink milk right out of the udder.
Very delicious.
It was really good. I enjoyed it. And this is the first farm.
The museum.
Yeah, the museum.
That's the shark.
The
Yeah,
Greenland
that's the
shark.
dried shark.
Yeah.
And the ducks.
He made us pose with all these like taxidermy
Yeah.
things.
He was fun. He was fantastic.
It was adorable.
And he had like big posters just full of information on all the sharks, and yeah, it was great. He's actually had a whole bunch of different TV shows come,
He had
and
Gordon Ramsay come.
yeah, Gordon Ramsay and Taste the Shark. He threw it up. Wow.
And tasted the shark.
Really?
Yes.
But yeah, that's.
Didn't notice your face on that picture.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Okay. So we kind of just got to talk to them and like interview the farmers a bit. And the first farmer was more about just like very excited about the community and unity between the farms that he thinks that the regional park will bring. And yeah, I don't know, he was just very excited to show us just about his heritage and his family. And I think that's it. His farm would be like phenomenal for tourism. I think the way he describes his history and everything, it's just it keeps your attention. You want to learn more about it. So yeah, he was great. I liked him a lot. The second farmer, she knew about the regional park, but she didn't know like how it would benefit her. She just knows just the gist of what it is. She didn't really know like how what she would do or how she would really contribute. Yeah. And the third farmer, she was aware and interested in the concept of the regional park, but she also felt there was a lack of communication. And this was a farmer who sends the bulk of her product to Reykjavik, and so she thinks she would have to have like a larger workforce to be able to participate in something that we brought up, which is like farmers markets and stuff like that. And so something that we think would like really benefit the area is something to kind of like tackle this issue of communication between the farms. If someone was to take the initiative and go and kind of bring these farmers together and be like, okay, like if our restaurants are buying your food, you're going to benefit because you'll be making a profit, but also it's going to draw in tourism, and just like when they're here, that's what they want. They want organic, local, fresh food. They want to be tasting the food that's in this area, not chain restaurants and things like that. They really, like, that's what we want when we come here. We want to go to the local cafes, and we want, that experience of being in this culture. And so I think using that local produce to do that.
So just to kind of go over it again, it seemed like the common thread between all of them was this lack of communication. It seems like they're looking for a stabilized ground to be able to talk about their issues and how to fix them. So right now, this whole entire project, I feel like it's almost bringing up problems, and hopefully you guys will find a solution. So, yes.
We also come up with several like fresh ideas.
Yeah.
Like the direction of development you can
Funky,
make.
fresh
Yeah, funky fresh direction.
Fresh direction of development.
Yes. Like how to make the most of the natural resources. Like put the emphasis on local, handmade, and organic food. And we can also like have bars here, They can have concerts, music, and open mic nights like karaoke and watching sports together. Those ideas keep the people get together and know each other more, and this becomes a solid community. And
Kind of going back, like Shay was saying, like this place reminds me of home. Like this is like a town like where we grew up in, you know. I think we all feel it, and so it really reminded us like of all the possibilities that could happen.
Yeah, something, I come from Whidbey Island, and it's a very, very small community, and I was the same way. Once high school ended, I just wanted to get away to the city, and that's where I am. I'm in Seattle, and it's amazing, but it's also things like we have festivals for each season, and I think that's something that would be great here, and we have a mussel festival because mussel farming is huge on Whidbey Island, and so we kind of celebrate that each year. And having something here, maybe like a fish festival or something like that, where it's like you not only utilize the local produce, but you're also coming together and it's fun. There's lots of kids activities with like face painting and stuff like that, and like those are memories that draw me home. Like I appreciate where I come from now because it's that small like tight knit community that I'm kind of that's home to me. That's Whidbey Island, and that's what draws me back. That's why I would love to raise my kids there and go back because it has that. It's it's just a great all around community. Something like, especially in Seattle, we have the Pike Place Market, and that's something, it's like well known, it's huge. And just like farmers markets, I feel like in Washington are a big deal also, just like on the weekends where people can bring either like their artwork, their food, and just like sell it, or have a place just to sell locally every week. And it's, again, something that brings the community together, and so I think that would benefit. Also, like things like that are just local, we have, it's called the Fainting Goat, which is like gelato, these goat's milk, and then we also have Molly Moon's in Seattle, which is also like a local ice cream store. And so finding ways to use your local products like that, it's something that people go and they want. It's big. Everyone knows about it in Seattle because it's just like, it's one of those local, small businesses that, and it's amazing. They have really good ice cream, but it's something that people want to support because it's local. So just some ideas.
And another point is we can develop tourism here, and it helps bring tourists here and also bring locals back because it generate more employment. Jobs here.
Not only just like a place that you just get drunk and drink. It's like a place where you can watch like sports games together, or also just like the music. Music here is phenomenal, and it's a place that you can have a stage for that, and everyone can just like have a good time and listen to you. And so I also think that having something like that, just like one that's bigger than like Reuben, per se, just somewhere that everyone can come and just hang out.
Preservation in Snæfellsnes.
I'm Grayson. We should do some
we'll do some introductions.
I'm Grayson.
I'm Tiny.
I'm Levis.
I'm Aiden. And this is the layout.
So Regional Park is this area, Snæfellsnes, and we are trying to get people to come back after they go and get some education, to get back here and be with us here.
So to do that, we want to create a brand, I guess, for the Snæfellsnes Peninsula and all that.
Branding being just designating a place by name, and again, like we were told in some of the presentations about regional parks, you create value, you use the resources here, the assets that the land has to offer, but doing it in an environmentally and socially conscious way, which is why we conducted some of the interviews that we did, so that we would get the opinions of the people in the area, so that we knew that some of our ideas would be socially conscious of the social situation here. So the main idea of our project is preservation, as the title says. And with preservation of these old buildings and churches and houses, we remember history, the history of the area, of the town. And you build and maintain identity, a sense of identity of who one is in one's own community. And something that we thought was important in this preservation process of these buildings and such is to connect with the contemporary culture, the culture of the young people, and how could this preservation process, making sure that these buildings stay renovated and updated, how this could help build new livelihoods, a future for the youth, allow for there to be youth culture involved in these buildings. And so we came upon this whole idea of repurposing or reappropriating, reusing spaces, these historical spaces, these buildings, how we can sort of use the same building, the same frame, so that you see the old history, but using the inside for something that's relevant to the youth.
Yeah, the pitfalls. The bad thing about this is kind of we have these houses and they're all empty, these houses, because they are people in Reykjavik and rich people that like renovate them and make them look really nice, but they just use them for themselves. And they're denying to rent them to people that want to live in Stykkishólmur. That's really bad. So they're empty most of the time.
So it's like a ghost town, one part of the town.
Yeah. But in the summertime it's much better. But we want them to be used the whole year around. And we think these houses can be used for something else.
And also, when these people own these various houses as summer homes exclusively, like what does that mean for one's sense of heritage and identity? When it's not the people in the town living there year round and using the spaces throughout the entire year, what does that mean for someone's identity, for their heritage, their history? How do they remember that? Yeah.
And yeah, another problem we kind of encountered when coming up with these things, like some of our, I guess, projections or suggestions for the future, which we'll touch on in a bit, but was like entrepreneurship was an issue, because in order to kind of like repurpose these buildings, especially if they are owned by other people, like not by the town. There are a few buildings that are owned by the town, and they are being used for certain things, like the Volcano Museum in Stykkishólmur,
Water of library.
the Water of Library, but to kind of create these new opportunities in new places, you have to have the kind of drive within the community to kind of build these things. And so that's one issue we've kind of like located, was like how do we get these things like started, was having people want to.
It's hard to start a business when the market isn't there for it. We need people to. We need more people to. You need people to like start a business, like cafeterias, or coffee houses, or cinemas, or something like that. But you can't also get the people to move when there is nothing there. So
to move back.
Yeah, to move back.
So here are our prospects for the future. When kind of like maintaining the history, we want to like keep the history in these buildings, but also kind of, I mean, like maybe change the interiors, or keep the exteriors, or like maintain the interiors as well. And through this, we like came up with the idea of like the obvious, adding plaques and labeling buildings, you know, to kind of like let people know, either the youth if they haven't been told it already, or I guess tourists, what this building is and like what has happened here, kind of like a story, and maybe like adding videos and pictures to the buildings, to the insides, or so there's like maybe a place set aside where people coming in can learn about it without there having to be someone constantly speaking. But also in our interviews, we interviewed Diny's grandmother actually, and she gave us like another perspective on that, and she said that the towns, they're not museums, they're like living places, and so she was opposed to the idea of plaques and labels and stuff on certain buildings that are just like buildings in general or places, because I guess like what she said, it's not a museum, it's not dead, it's not in the past, it's like still going on. And so she was more towards the idea of like speaking and transferring things through oral history, which is like a big part of Iceland in general. So like with the sagas and stuff, everything is generally told just by mouth, I guess, and not read exactly, but yeah.
She also suggested like maybe having papers, having things written on paper, having like apps on iPhones or something that like you could like see the history and read about it.
If you want to.
If you want to.
It's optional.
Yeah.
There is one app that one woman in Stickson made to get to know Sticksoner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are moving forward.
Cool. Yeah. And then so our big idea was repurposing or reappropriating these buildings, and that's like renovating, and we have that being done at least in Stigasholmer, where there's the rich people like rebuilding these like kind of falling apart buildings and stuff. And the problem is they're like still empty, or they're like summer homes only, and they're not being used a lot of the time. And so we want to kind of, I don't know how we'd step in, but if we could reappropriate them. And that's already been done with the Volcano Museum building, which is this red one right here. And it was at first a movie theater, and then it turned into a youth center, and then now it's a volcano museum, and it's kind of like this ongoing process. But for the like purpose of our project, where we want to bring young people back and like give them opportunities and stuff, and kind of, I don't know, like foster culture, we like the idea of the youth center that it once was, or the movie theater, because it gives people in the town something to do. I don't know how many people in a town who live there actually, maybe once they'll go to the Volcano Museum, but beyond that, it's not really a place they can meet and kind of foster relationships and stuff. So we thought of kind of cultures that we have at least in Seattle or something, that are a big part of our lives, which is like cafes and pubs and clubs and libraries and bookstores and shops, and just places where people can come together and, I don't know, create new ideas or just hang out. And
we want the church to be a club.
Yeah.
The old church. The old church.
It's a little controversial, but
by the way.
But I also liked.
The old people didn't like that.
No, yeah. I liked what you guys said. Is everybody drives around here for fun, and I remember I did that when I lived in my hometown. It was like all we did was we just drove places because we had nowhere to go. But I like the idea of or the quote is like, they drive around with nowhere to go, but if we give them a place to go, it's like it's a good thing, something to do.
Somebody has to take the first step.
Yeah.
Change.
Entrepreneurs. Yeah, and so our takeaway is a focus on jobs, essentially.
Yeah. In our interviews, we found that a lot of people, when we were talking to them about this idea of the building heritage and just the repurposing and all of that, a lot of them kept mentioning jobs, focus on employment and jobs. So we just felt it necessary to include that here, since that's kind of the voice of the people saying that there needs to be a focus on jobs. Because a lot of people want to come back to Stiksomer to raise their kids because they couldn't imagine raising their kids anywhere else. But they need the opportunities for employment. And I mean, Katie was even talking about on Whidbey Island, you know, she wants to raise her kids there.
I'm Simon.
I'm Christine.
I'm Zach.
So yeah, our website, we used Weebly, obviously. The website we did was like, we were trying to show not only Snæfellsnes, but like history of like fishing from this country, because the fishing industry is pretty much similar to, it doesn't really matter where you're from doing it. So yeah, on this page we just like to show you the Viking ways which they did it, which was a long time ago here, and the difference, like how much work it took back then, and how a lot of fish parts were wasted because they only went for the good parts, and the rest they didn't have the technology or anything to, or knowledge to do anything with them, which now obviously we use for like a lot of things. So yeah, a lot of the history was about us fighting for the rights to fish and getting our territory, which is like predators do in the wild, like marking their territory. So that's what we did against Britain and some ships, and that took a while to get to the state we're at now. So I think that was a main thing which started to change fishing industry up to how it is today. So yeah.
So we did a bit of exploring of the present circumstances of fishing in Iceland, and it's really diverse now. It's becoming something that's growing really fast, and there's all kinds of creative new businesses emerging. Like for instance, some small companies are becoming international, so that they still know the customers by name. That their customers know their names. One example was Mars Seafood.
Yeah. When after first day here, I decided to organize a little trip to Stykkishólmur because I knew Stykkishólmur best. That's my the town I live in. So I went to some companies, and one of them was Mars Seafood, and that was a very nice place to visit because I remember for a few years ago there was this young woman who had just finished school, and she wanted to start her own company. And she started in our little room in our fish factory, just with a telephone and her computer. And for some years, maybe 2 years, she was there first alone, and then with one other lady. And when we came there this week, we went to a very beautiful building, and here is, you can see the photo here. There are 4 young women working there, and she has this young lady who's the owner of the company. She has 4 ladies working with her in Stykkishólmur and 2 in Denmark. And this is big company, even though it's in Stykkishólmur. They do it much differently from what we are used to, and they are just women working there. So they know almost all the names of people everywhere in the world they are doing business with. And we think this is very special, very, very nice.
Yeah, and it's the interesting, unique thing about it is there's no fish there in this company. They're just selling it, like kind of almost like the middle person. They'll sell it mainly Icelandic fish. They're very proud of the quality, so that's kind of their main brand. But they also do business where they sell fish from Denmark, and when there isn't that type of fish available from Iceland. So it's kind of getting more diverse, and they do have a couple of employees in Denmark too. That was just one way that another way women can get involved in the fishing industry besides actually going out fishing would be just these creative new businesses. Another thing we saw was there's a lot of industrial expansion, so all parts of the fish are used, and so now a couple of cool ways are the use of fish skin for medical purposes, like the bandage on wounds, and also fish oil used in cosmetics. We also were looking into like sustainability issues and the program Earth Check, where some communities like Snæfellsnes is already participating in the program and have like the blue flag, which means they have a clean harbor, and then the green flag for recycling and other green policies. It kind of creates a brand for the area where it's a healthy and clean area and it's got quality environmental practices. We also went inside a fish factory, that was the other picture up there, and saw kind of how all parts were used and separated of the fish. And the one interesting thing about their practices sustainability-wise is that the salt is actually reused again. I thought that was pretty great. And there's a really high standard of cleanliness, which I thought was kind of unique for Iceland because some other countries are not there yet with their standards of cleanliness in their food factories. There's also high quality standards, like the color of the fish and everything's separated into A, B, C categories. So you're able to sell really high quality fish. Another thing was that tourism, there's already a lot of cool innovative ideas going on, like people going to participate in fishing and, let's see, I'll scroll down. And also, we were talking about, there is another person who takes people out on a Viking ship and kind of gives them an experience out at sea in a Viking ship. Of course, everyone knows whale watching, local restaurants that serve local fish, that increases sales through tourism, and then it benefits the whole fishing industry. Another unique thing was fish skin clothing, which is really taking off, and it could be become a special part of the Icelandic brand. And also tourists are really attracted to those items too. So our next thing is kind of talking about the future, what we see for the future of the fishing industry. That's us. We went fishing.
Can you go up a little bit, the general introduction?
Oh, yeah.
So I hope we can take a minute to read this, because I think this is our general ideas about what's going to happen in the future in the region, the fishing industry in the regional parks. And I think the method and ideas of fishing industry have been changing rapidly. Though more and more young people tend to leave their town for more opportunities, fishing industry should not lose its significant role in young people's life. Part of it is because fishing has been one of the oldest traditions and resources of Iceland. And also, fishing industry is still generating huge profit and a job for local people. The problem is how to innovate the idea of fishing industry and protect its tradition at the same time. It has to be sustainable, but also creating opportunities at the same time. We believe that the future of Icelandic fishing industry lays in diversity and efficiency. Regional Park as a project that aims to attract young people should embrace this idea of diversity. To some degree, fishing industry in Regional Park almost like a company that generates profit. However, more importantly, it must preserve the historical tradition and uniqueness of Iceland. So this is our idea about the fishing industry, our central concept. Because I think it is very hard for regional park to motivate the entire Iceland for people to attract people go back to Iceland or even go back to their own town. But I think this regional park gonna be a landmark, gonna be a starting point. And if this regional park works really well, it could motivate the entire country to do the same thing. And so we have 6 ideas about detailed ideas. The first one is sustainability. sustainability, I think the reason why it's important is because it's about future. Because it's for something that generations and generations they can use it. But sustainability is also is also difficult to define it, because sometimes you run out of for example, if you don't use geothermal to heat the water, you can use electricity to heat the water. So it's like it's almost like scientific innovation. So it's really hard to define what is sustainability, but we don't destroy it. It's a basic idea that every local business and every national business should embrace is sustainability. And another one is industrial chain. I think this one is really important because what I noticed is people catch the fish from the sea and they process it, but they only process a certain part, and they send the rest of the part to other part. Maybe they send it to France, they send it to Spain, and I think if it's possible, they can process all the part in the local town. And when they send it to another country, it's already product. So that means France is going to buy product from Iceland. The Iceland is earning money rather than just catch the fish and give it to other companies. So I think it's gonna be a really good opportunity. And another thing, the third one is interconnected local business. So I think what brings this town together as a union, as a family, is everybody works together. So for example, if I have a restaurant and you have a fish boat, or like we can have a contract, like everything that in my restaurant is from your fish boat. If I have a medical company, if I want to make some cosmetics, you give me fish oil, it's like everybody's together, everybody lives depend on each other. So I think that brings a very unique characteristic of a town. There are huge resources here. So for example, if you have a scientific research, it's maybe 10 years later, people don't need to go out to fish anymore. You just build a machine and a machine will fish it for you. Or if you have a scientific research or to cure some cancers, use fish or any kind of research. I think that is really, really important. And the fifth about the brand, I think that's it's more like a cultural thing. It's what people have in their heart about Iceland. It's something they are really proud of. It's not only for Icelandic people themselves, but for the rest of the world. I think the brand constructing is like a political action. It's the government. It's the advertisement. It's what other people see about Iceland in their own country. Like what can I see? What kind of advertisement can I see in China? What kind of advertisement I can see in Seattle? I think, and about the tourism, what I think is tourism. My personal feeling is that tourism here is not huge. It's what I think is still very small, because my experience is most Chinese people, they are huge tourism in China. They go around the world, but very few people they stop at Iceland, and even they stop at Iceland, it's gonna be 3 days or 4 days. But most of the Chinese people they stay in Italy for a month. They spend huge money in Italy, in France, in Spain, but they only spend 3 days in Iceland. I think that means something. That means something. I think maybe it's because the advertisement, or because something that is attractive to people. And if the tourism is here, I think, for example, they are not going to spend time with the local people because they are not going to stay in their house. So they are going to eat in the restaurant. If they spend $20 per day for a person, you can imagine how much money it's gonna bring. But it's also about sustainability. You have to think about it. Do you want tourism? If you have a visa free for China, like for example, if Chinese people don't need a visa to go to Iceland, there might be millions and millions of people go to Iceland. So it will give you a huge profit, but at the same time, it also will destroy your environment to some degree. And preserving tradition and history, I think this one is about everything that everybody in this group we have talked about. I mean, everybody in this room, because I think it's really important to preserve the tradition, also challenge the tradition, and then make it more valuable, make it more motivating and sexy at the same time.
One thing we've noticed here during our stay is that fishing and those involved in the industry are really appreciated. Like even in the church, the pictures, the paintings of the anchor tell a story about how much people who go out at sea are thought of here. And of course, we were explaining that they meant safe harbor here on land. What we kind of discovered when we were asking, like, what do young people want from the regional park? Well, more diverse job opportunities, more social gathering places, more variety in everything, in activities, commodities, and increased population of young people. But we really think that these elements will take time to grow, but that the regional park will help greatly with encouraging the growth and encouraging people to want to be here, because it gives Snæfellsnes a real a brand in being somewhere unique and being somewhere that cares about its environment, its people, its culture, and is kind of welcoming. Also, you might want to explain, fishing is a central idea. So,
So it's like, because fishing is like the biggest industry in Iceland, so it's like a central from the industries. Sorry, it should be a central in the regional park, because fishing can connect to every single idea they've come here up and told us, like the markets or tourism or landscapes and everything. That's also on sea, and you can also, a lot of opportunities should be researchers as well in the sea, because we have a lot more than we think we have. It's not only fish there. So that could also be a lot of job opportunities, but someone has to come and do it first. So that's the only problem, I think. But I think that fishing should be like the central and the beginning of most of the things, because this is the industry you have most of. So we have a lot of fishing here rather than maybe other things we produce. So yeah, I think the biggest thing should be in the middle.
Yeah, and we did quite a few things also to get involved and learn about this central idea of Icelandic culture. One of those was we visited the Maritime Museum, and we learned a lot about the Cod Wars and how it's such a central part of Icelandic national identity and history, and how it's been fought for. But also, Kristen took us to do quite a few unique things.
Yeah, we went on sea with my husband and took some cruise near Snæfellsnes, around some islands, and there they saw my sheep.
Yeah, the thing about that was we just went fishing. It was like an experience for them and have something new. But at the same time, they looked at the landscape. They said, "Oh, that's beautiful." And then we told them stories about one of island. Or Kristen told a story about an island she knew, and then we saw a little more. Then it wasn't just fishing.
Yeah,
it was like part of everything.
Yeah, the history is all around.
Exactly.